Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jeevanam Kavibhiritam Kalmashapaham Sravanamangalam Srimadaatatam Bhuvi Grananti Ye Bhurida Jana. The Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, December 1882. In the afternoon, Sri Ramakrishna was seated on the west porch of his room in the temple garden at Dakshineshwar. Among others, Baburam, Ramdayal and Aim were present. These three were going to spend the night with the master. Aim intended to stay the following day also, for he was having his Christmas holidays. Baburam had only recently begun to visit the master to the devotees. A man becomes liberated even in this life when he knows that God is the doer of all things. Once Keshav came here with Shambhu Mallik. I said to him, not even a leaf moves except by the will of God. Where is man's free will? All are under the will of God. Now, to understand this concept of God's free will, that's God's will in Hinduism, can be understood from two or three different perspectives. The first perspective is the concept of rhythm, that the ultimate reality finds expression as the phenomenal existence, which is the expression in the form of energy, of Shakti. And that Shakti is again not chaotic. It finds expression again as rhythm. The rhythm has the same etymological meaning as the word rhythm in English, that there are certain laws which governs the entire universe. So this energy, the Brahma Shakti, and the Shakti is finding expression as some laws. The ultimate reality finds expression as the Shakti. So just we were singing that Om Rim Rhythm, the second prayer. It starts with that Om Rim Rhythm. What it signifies? Om signifies the absolute reality, which is finding expression as Rim, the Shakti. The Shakti is finding expression as rhythm. The Shakti is not chaotic. It finds expression as laws. There's a uniformity in the entire universe. There's the law of, in the physical world, we find that the law of gravitation, the law of magnetism, this governs the universe. Similarly, in all the religions we will find that they speak of moral laws. In our scriptures, they speak of vidhis and nishedhas. In Christianity, in the Abrahamic religion, there is the idea of commandments. These are all speaks of some commandments, laws. So these are the God's will. You cannot break them. The laws can never be broken. Like anyone, if he says that I do not believe in the law of gravitation, that doesn't mean he's going to fly. That whether I believe or not, it is going to act on me. If I jump out from a 20-story building thinking that I don't believe in gravitation, I'm going to crash and die. Similarly, all these vidhis and nishedhas are absolute laws. We cannot break them. Yes, but we break them. We know it for certain, law can never be broken. In our attempt to break them, we break ourselves. Just the way the one who jumps out of a 20-story building thinking, I don't believe in gravitation, he breaks himself. He crashes. Similarly, in our attempt to break the so-called commandments, we break ourselves. You will find that from the law of rhythm is associated with the law of karma, that we as such have no free will. We think, that is one of the perspectives, that we think we have free will, but we are all guided by those rhythm. If I understand the plan of the divine will and act accordingly, then I am going to yield certain result. And if I don't believe in it, then I am going to disintegrate, and I am going to just, lose the purpose of my life. As Sri Ramakrishna very nicely has spoken of, that someone asked him that whether there is some absolute truth in some other context in the gospel we find. Sri Ramakrishna never gave the answer directly. What he's saying, that lonka khele jhal lagbe. If you take chili, you're bound to feel hot. You have to have that hot sensation. What he's indicating, that suppose a plate of chili is kept separately when you are having your food. Now whether to take the chili or not, it is up to you. I take the chili, I taste it, and I don't feel that hot sensation. That's not going to happen. That is fixed. If you take the chili, you're bound to feel that hot sensation. Whether I will take it or not, yes, that much free will is there for me. But if I take, I'm going to have that hot sensation. I can never say that I will take the chili and won't have that sensation. It is fixed. So that's the idea of the divine will, that rhythm governs the universe, whether in the physical world or for the living beings, whether it's in the moral world. We can never break them. That many say that in the modern world we don't believe in all those so-called moral laws and commandments. Just see, I was just going through one of the wonderful TED talks where the first question started with who are more civilized, the so-called modern civilization or the aborigines. And the very next thing he's saying very nice, say if the context, if the condition of civilization is sustainability, that how we can sustain ourselves in this universe. So then just ponder one question, that the aborigines, even as per the history goes, we don't know exactly for how long they are staying. As per the history goes, as per our record goes, even with our science and technology, we have found out that they are living here for 60,000 years. Maybe it's more. And with our with our bragging of the modern science in just 200 years, we are at the point of annihilation in the form of global warming, in the form of ozone layer depletion. That all this, at present, the climate change is for what? We forgot one thing, that there are certain laws which are governing the universe. The concept of yajna in the Gita also speaks of that. We started exploiting nature, forgetting the laws of universe. And just in 200 years, in the name of civilization, we are on the verge of extinction. We are on the brink of a precipice. You take one more step and you are gone. And they knew the law of nature. They were having a wonderful sense of understanding with the nature. And for 60,000 years they were surviving. So now you will find God's will, the rhythm, where it works. That rhythm, the more we understand the way the nature is working, which is the God's will, and I'm attuning myself to it, my life gets integrated. So rhythm is very much connected with the karma. That's the one way of understanding God's will, that no one can go transgress the God's will. We all have to be bound by that God's will, which is acting in the universe as rhythm. The second is the concept of Leela, from which we can understand God's will. That whatever is happening, we as a human being try to give a sense of purpose behind it. But in our Bhakti Shastras, they speak of the idea of Leela, that the ultimate reality is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupa, that bliss is his nature. And when the bliss is his nature, that finds expression, it manifests as the Leela, the play, just like a small child full of life. What it does, if you give him some clay, some synthetic clay or even just ordinary clay, he will constantly go on making, unmaking. So many things that a child will make, break it, again it will make it. The child has no purpose. Why he is making and unmaking? It is just the spontaneous expression of that life which is within him, which is finding expression as joy. The child is spontaneously joyous. It needs nothing. You just give something, it will go on making, unmaking. So the entire world, universe is like the play of that Virat Shishu. There is one song of Nazrul Islam, very nice song. That Khelicho e Vishwaloye Virat Shishu Anamone. That entire universe is just the playground of the Virat Shishu, the child who encompasses this entire universe. He is just playing in the form of making and unmaking. We as a human being try to find out some purpose behind it, but actually there is no purpose. When there is a lot of destruction, we say, oh, God is not kind. He's cruel. Why is there so much destruction? Is he not compassionate? Swami Vivekananda very nicely in one place, in one of his lecture, is giving a very nice example to explain that this is two different levels of awareness. From the divine level of awareness, there is no sense of purpose. Making, unmaking, everything is his lila. From our level of awareness, we are trying to give too much of importance to what is happening. And the example which Swamiji is giving is very nice. That the mother dog is lying lazily, and just at a distance, the puppies are playing, and they start fighting. For the puppies, the fight is very serious. They think that the other is hurting me, is going to kill me. But the mother is not perturbed anyway. She knows it is just a mere play. Nothing is going to happen. But for the siblings, it is something very serious. Even as a human being, we know when the siblings are fighting, for them it is a serious matter. But the parents take it very lightly. So this is a different level of awareness. From that level of awareness, it is just a mere play. For us, it may be something serious. So that's the idea of divine Leela. That then we may feel that it is maybe his Leela, but we are dying here, suffering. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we find that idea. When Sri Ramakrishna was indicating that everything is God's play, then someone told it is his play, but we are dying here. And then Sri Ramakrishna in one line gave a wonderful answer. Who are you? Everything is he. It is he who has become you and me to give a sense of separation. Otherwise, the game won't be interesting. In his word, Leela Pushtai Hoina. That game won't be nurturing. If you have a sense that you alone are playing, the game cannot be very interesting. As when I was in the school for a long time in India, in the residential school of Ramakrishna Mission, and when I used to look after the students studying in the study hours, very interesting thing. Sometimes you get a feeling that they are studying very seriously, as if they are taking some notes. There's a book beside them, there's a notebook, and as if they are turning the page and taking some notes. But if you intently look, actually they are not studying at all. In the study hours, they cannot as such gossip with others because there is someone who is vigilant, looking after them, supervising. So they have found out a way of playing something. What's that? It is called book cricket. What if you turn any page of a book, the facing page will have only the even numbers. Either it will be 0, the last digit of that page. Any page which is the facing page, not the page which you are holding, the page which is flat, it is generally even. What it will be either 0, the last digit will be 0, or 2, or 4, or 6, or 8. This is the option. No other options. Because odd pages are the one you are holding. The even pages are going to end with either 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So this student has prepared 2 cricket teams, India, Pakistan, or India, Australia. And all the name of the players are there. And when he turns the page and finds that something that, like, say 82 the page number is. So the last digit is 2. So the batsman has scored a double. So he will write 2 in the name of the batsman. Again he turns. If it is 4, means he has scored a boundary. He turns. If it is 6, an over boundary. Turns, he finds it's 8. There cannot be a score of 8. So that means a single. So he gets a single, double, boundary, over boundary, and if it is 0 means out. So now he gets all the scores with which he is playing the cricket, whereas the Indian team, the Australian team, all the players, wonderful cricket match is going on. So seeing that, the idea came, that's what God is doing. It is He who has become all the players, the Indian team, the cricket, the Australian team, the fielders, the bowlers, the batsmen. It is He only who is playing. Where are you? He has given the sense of separation. Otherwise, the game won't be interesting. So we cannot that way say God is sadist. So it is His God way, His will. It is His spontaneous. So that is another way of understanding. It's another paradigm to understand the expression that everything is God's will. There's another paradigm. This is a paradigm again in the Bhakti Shastra, which is the idea of this again, the idea of this. From the joy comes Ladini Shakti. That the God's spontaneous expression as happiness. He can play alone, just like the book cricket. And again, He has created some characters which are not just animated characters. They too can respond. Means it's not just an animated robotic character. They can respond. It is He only who has become the other. But now it appears as two. He was one, He became many. With idea of individuality. Why He did that? That the joy, the factor of joy, that Ananda Swarupata, which is His essence, which is His nature, that finds expression where the best expression is through love. The joy's best manifestation is love. That is in the Bhakti Shastra has been spoken of as Ladini Shakti. The love, Allah, from Allah, that word Ladini. What it speaks of? That God, to experience His own bliss in the form of love, has become many. Giving everyone a sense of individuality so that the one becomes two and they have a communion with the love to experience the joy that emanates from that love. Now the question comes, if that's the will of God, then why we are not as if programmed in such a way to love God? How many people love God? Most of us are distracted with the ways of life. We are just moving out. So the answer is that love is such a thing for which the choice is important. Suppose I love a person and that person doesn't reciprocate that love. Of course, the love is not realized. But if that person has a choice, if that person reciprocates, then I feel the love. If I knew that that person is bound to love me, then you can never experience love. You should see a movie which is called Artificial Intelligence, a very famous movie. It got many Grammy awards. Stephen Spielberg's very famous movie, Artificial Intelligence. In that, they show that the human civilization has advanced so much that they have started creating robots which look exactly like humans. Now one couple, they have a biological child and now they plan to have one artificial intelligence as their child, which it looks just like human being, but it has been programmed with unconditional love. Even if the mother neglects the child will love him. Scolds, still the child will love him. Whatever the mother may do, whether it loves the child or just rebukes it or is indifferent towards it, the child will love. It has been programmed in such a way. The movie, as it proceeds, you will find a wonderful thing. That because it's a machine, after all, it does certain blunders, which has nothing to do with the love. It has unconditional love. But the parents feel that this artificial intelligence, at last it is an artificial intelligence, it can be a great danger for the family. Unknowingly, the machine may do some mistake, which may be dangerous. So they decide, we will simply reject it. Where to reject it? It's after all programmed in such a way, you cannot kill it. That just, it needs to be charged and again, it will revive back. And in that society, the laws have been made in such a way that you cannot simply destroy it. So what to do? They plan to go and simply leave it in a desolate place, in a forest. So one day they plan that let us go for an excursion. So the entire family on a car goes out for an excursion and they stop somewhere in the forest as if they want to just relax a bit. So they all get down of the car And suddenly these parents get up on the car and start speeding, leaving out the child. The child cries at the top of his voice, "Mother, don't leave me." But the parents are not all disturbed, because they know it is programmed. It is just an artificial intelligence programmed with unconditional love. So there is no question of reciprocating, because you know it's a machine. So if God would have created us just the way that we should love Him, so that He experiences the joy of love, it will be just like loving a machine. So that's why He gave the choice, that little choice. You can, you may not. But again, He has programmed the universe in such a way that you may not love me, and you may just move out from me. Go out to the world with your five senses, relate to the world. But the world has been devised in such a way, it is perfectly imperfect. You can never get joy out of it, however you may try. At last you have to turn around. And God is waiting for that. Out of your own choice, He will turn around. There's a wonderful story in the Bible, the story of the prodigal child, which speaks of that. That a rich man had two sons. The elder son was Nitya Siddhya. He's always obedient. He's a Nitya Siddhya. The younger son, he is the one who has that sense of freedom, rebellious. When he grows, he says, just give the share of my property, what I inherit. I want to live a free life. The father tries to explain that you are not yet mature, but he insists. He doesn't want to listen to his father. At last, father had to yield to the child's insistence, gives a huge share of the property, and the child goes away with that what he inherits. And as the father has predicted, he was not a responsible child. So he squanders the property. And then when he has no wealth left, that prodigal child, he has no left wealth. He is now totally a pauper. Now there is no other way. He will die. So now again the thought of father comes. But religion starts with fear. What? Oh, I have transgressed. I haven't obeyed my father. I have wasted all his property. But as there is no other way, in spite of fear, he thinks of returning back. Just like us. Oh, I have transgressed. God must be angry with me. With that we starts approaching. Now this son, as he came near the village, father from a distance saw his son. Seeing the son, father ran. He ran, embraced the child. He was very happy. At last, the son has returned. He didn't question him anything. Where were you? What have you done to you? Nothing. Simply brought him back, and he called the entire village to have a huge feast to celebrate the child's homecoming. So this is the story. So this again will show you that the God's will, Ladini Shakti, to enjoy the bliss of union. He has created us with that willpower, that little will with which we can move out. That's what we are doing for lives together. At last, we are all destined to turn around, today or tomorrow. And He is waiting for that. He has made the world perfectly imperfect. You can never get even a little trace of joy. Gandha matramapi, in Bhagavad Gita, Shankaracharya's commentary, that this world doesn't have the capacity to give you joy even to just a trace. All the joy, even in our worldly pleasures, come from God. You know how? It's because joy means desirelessness, not the desire. Whatever I intensely desire, when I'm desiring, I never get the joy. The moment the desire is fulfilled, for the time being I am desireless. My mind is calm. And then your real nature percolates through your mind and senses. As long as the mind is agitated, your real nature gets filtered out. The moment the mind is at peace, the joy, the happiness that comes, this world doesn't have the capacity to give you even a little bit of happiness. Even from the sensate pleasures, the happiness that comes from the Lord. But we are deluded. We think the external things have given us happiness. So we again go on pursuing for the things, forgetting that if I can keep my mind calm, that happiness is always going to be with me. I did not have to chase after the desires. I somehow have to be dhira, as the Upanishad says. And that's the thing, that delusion is the thing which is making us going again and again to chase the sensate pleasures of life, forgetting that the happiness comes only from the divine. And God is waiting eternally. It is God who is waiting. It is not we who are waiting for the divine. It is the God who is waiting for us. That's why in Hinduism we find the God as a child, as Gopala. We go to God with extended hands. And you will find it's just the opposite. Gopala is extending his hands, as if he is asking something from me. What is that? Just forget everything and give yourself to me. For that, as if he is eternally waiting. And that's the plan of the divine. That's another way to understand God's will. That everything is God's will. What appears to be our personal will is something, yes, it is there, but it is just a matter of choice which has its limitation. It is bound by that rhythm. I cannot break that. As in the gospel we find that example, that what's our freedom like? A goat is tied to the stump of a tree with a rope. Its freedom is just the length of the rope. Within that it can move about the grass which is within that circumference. It can go on nibbling on that. But if it wants to extend, it is incapable because the rope is there tying. And seeing us exerting too much, the God may come, may loosen the rope for once for all, or he may extend the rope. Means he may just somehow loosen the bond, or he may totally annihilate the bond. But that is again God's will. So that's the various way. These all ideas are in the gospel. But here, we are just bringing them together to understand these words of Ramakrishna. What? That a man becomes liberated even in this life when he knows that God is the doer of all things. Once Keshav came here with Shambhu Malik, I said to him, not even a leaf moves except by the will of God. Where is man's free will? All are under the will of God. Actually, we don't have free will. Even in modern psychology, that's the idea that we have no free will. We never take a single resolution. It is the way the mind is fooling us constantly. Not a single resolution we take. You know that entire world of advertisement is based on that. That modern psychology says that we don't have one mind. We have innumerable mental modules. Small subsets of mind, mental modules. And each mental module has fixed stimuli-response conditioning. For a particular stimuli, if I am passing by a donut shop, just immediately, I was not feeling of having donut, but seeing that shop, immediately I feel like having donut. That stimuli, that donut shop immediately gave that response. Let me go and have it. So what it speaks of, that there are so many innumerable mental modules. At a time, only one gets activated. Now, which will get activated? Is there one main commander mental module which decides which will get? No. They say, as per the circumstances, as per the environment in which you are placed, a particular module will get activated, which has a fixed stimuli response conditioning, making you to respond in a particular way, but at the same time it fools you by thinking you are taking the decision. You never take the decision. It just fools you. The language brain is the biggest propaganda machine. It fools you by thinking you have taken the decision. But it's never you are taking the decision. This is actually the finding of the modern psychology. You yourself will find you are a different person when you're in the workplace, with your colleagues. The same person when you are back with your family, you're a total different person. When you are with your school friends, suppose after 30 years you met your school friend, suddenly you find that all those old stimuli response conditionings are awakening. So you will find the environment in which you are. That's which changes your personality suddenly. So it speaks of the environment in which you are, which has the capacity to invoke a particular mental module, which has a particular stimuli response conditioning, and it makes you take a decision, it makes you believe it is you have taken a decision. But actually that mental module by itself has done. It's a big research in our present modern psychology. And the entire world of advertisement is that. Somehow to influence you a particular mental module in a particular way to take the decision, oh, I'm going to buy this thing. So that's the thing which even in modern psychology they're saying that where is the man's free will? He has no free will. That's what in Vedanta they say, that we are neither the karta nor the bhokta. We think I am the karta. I'm not the karta. It is a working of the mind, working of the nature, which making us feeling that even in Bhagavad Gita this idea is kartaham iti manyate. But I am not the karta. It is the prakriti which is working in the form of guna guneshu vartanta. The senses evokes particular type of mental module, you take particular decision, that's the way the senses are working. You are in no way taking the decision, but it makes you feel that kartaham iti manyate. So this is the idea, that is all God's will. Somehow, to make the play interesting, he has given that wrong, ignorant notion of that ego, identity. But actually, just like when you wake up from the dream, you know it was just a dream. When you are dreaming, that was real. Similarly, our ego is a long dream. When the spiritual awakening happens, then I find that I am actually one with the divine consciousness. It was just a dream. It as such has no reality. So that's the idea which even in the gospel we will find spread out, which we try to bring together to understand these words of Sri Ramakrishna. Then Sri Ramakrishna is continuing. Nangta. Nangta is Sri Ramakrishna's Advaitic Guru, the Totapuri. He just used to stay almost naked, just used to wear the loin cloth. So Ramakrishna colloquially used to call him as Nangta. In our tradition, in our so-called spiritual tradition, just the wife won't take the husband's name. Similarly, a disciple won't take guru's name. They will find out some nickname to indicate their guru. So Sri Ramakrishna also never used to call Totapuri by name. That's the colloquial way of asking that, as he used to roam about just wearing the loin cloth, the traditional sadhu. So he used to call him Nangta, the naked one. So Nangta was a man of great knowledge. Yet even he was about to drown himself in the Ganges. He stayed here 11 months. At one time, he suffered from stomach trouble. The excruciating pain made him lose control over himself, and he wanted to drown himself in the river. There was a long shoal. Shoal means an area of shallow water. In the river, sometimes it is there. So there was a shoal there near the bathing ghat. So however far he went into the river, he couldn't find water above his knees. Then he understood everything. He realized that man is not free even to kill himself, that everything depends on the will of Divine Mother. At one time, I was very ill and was about to cut my throat with a knife. Therefore I say, O Mother, I am the machine and thou art the operator. I am the chariot and thou art the driver. I move as thou movest me. I do as thou makest me do. So the story that the episode in Sri Ramakrishna's life here is the Totapuri, when he was in Dakshineshwar. He just denied the Maya. He believed in Purushakara, that anyone with his self-effort can cut asunder the bondage of ignorance and realize the self. That the Maya has a role, like the Skripa also has a role to just as if remove the obstacles. That he never believed. Because Sri Ramakrishna used to believe in the Divine Mother. She used to pray to the Mother. That Mother, remove the obstacles from my spiritual journey. And that was the subtle fight between the two. That Totapuri never accepted the Shakti. It is by your own Purushakara you can go to the realization. And there was a reason for that. He was a man of a very strong build. So when he was going through his spiritual journey, the question of health becoming an obstruction in his spiritual journey never came. With his assiduous spiritual endeavor, it took 40 years for him to went to that ultimate realization, and for him, he was convinced it is man's own self-effort that can take him to that ultimate realization. So he never, actually, that second thought never came, that if I was not born in a circumstances which would have helped me to come under some divine influence. See, up now, even in the present age, those who are born in a stable family with good sanskaras, naturally that gives me the impetus, first impetus. Then your health comes. These are the factors which are not something within my control. They are Daiva. Yes, my effort do play a role, but there are so many other factors. Only my will is not the be-all and end-all of my destiny. There are so many other Daiva factors that also should come together along with my self-will to result in the realization of the goal which I am intending for. Sri Ramakrishna used to give a very nice example of two farmers. That one farmer was a traditional farmer. He always obeyed his ancestors. The ancestors told that never listen to the forecast of drought or flood. At a particular time every year, you have to plow the land. The other got some basic education and thought himself to be intelligent, and he heard the forecast that this year it is going to be a terrible drought. So he decided not to plow the land. He even insisted the other, why are you plowing for use? What's the use? He told, no. My forefathers have always told me that don't listen to the forecast, plow the land. Now, the forecast proves to be false. Suddenly we find sometimes the forecast is not always true. Suddenly there is a downpour, torrential rain. Now who is going to get the benefit? This is a wonderful allegory which Sri Ramakrishna is giving, the simile. The one who has plowed the land, he is going to get the benefit. The one who has not plowed, he is not going to get the benefit. So rain is Daiva. When it will come, no one knows. And the plowing is the Purushakara. Yes, I also have to do something. That kripa doesn't mean I say I'm sitting idly. Everything God will take care. No. You do your best. And that's the idea of Nishkam Karma. Even there. That Nishkam Karma doesn't mean that I just do the action half-heartedly. I do to the best of my ability, but at the same time, I should be aware of the fact the results are not in my hand. There are so many other factors that also has to come together. Even just say I find so many people, they are married, they come and say, oh, if I would have become a monk. That's what it shows. That the idea of renunciation have come to their mind. They are also thinking of a life of a renunciate. But see, the other factors are not favoring. His idea came quite late, when already he is in his family, when already he is entangled. Now the external circumstances won't allow him. So isn't it the Daiva, the one who even before entering the family life, somehow got the same idea that let me renounce. But he was lucky enough to get that idea in a time when he's not yet entangled. So he was free to come out of it. So just see everywhere, in every field of life, that however you may be intelligent, even in your exams, you're intelligent, very good in studies, just the day before the exam, suddenly you fall sick. And then you cannot go for the exam itself. So the Daiva factor is always there. So here also, that just to show that Daiva factor as if God, the Totapuri who never have experienced that what is ill health, suddenly in Dakshineshwar, because of the polluted water of the Ganges and that humid weather, he started developing the stomach issues. And previously he never have realized that. And now the body consciousness started growing in because of his ill health. Suddenly he found that his mind is no more in that elevated level. And that made him extremely vulnerable. He thought of suicide. He was just tried to drown himself. And then, it was a divine plan. He was just walking on the shoal where the water is very shallow. He couldn't drown himself. Came back, and then that idea came. Yes, there is something called God's will. Our Purushakara is something, just that itself is also a plan of the divine. He has given us the idea of free will. That's just an idea. To make us do certain things, only to understand in the retrospect that it was God's will. Like when even in the school we used to speak that everything is God's will. Nothing happens by your own effort. The students tell them, what's the use of study? However I may try, I have already sat for the entrance exam once, medical entrance once, I have failed. Second time I have again tried, I have failed. My parents are insisting, let me try for the third time. So if it's God's will that I will fail, what's the use for going for the third time? So I used to say that how you know now itself that you are going to fail for the third time. You will understand only when you have given the exam. In retrospect you will understand. Then only you can understand that most probably it was God's will. But in present, how can I say that what has God really devised for me? So in no way God's will discourages us from self-effort. Because I can understand God's will only in retrospect. At present, that little effort which is in me is a gift of the God. That is also the will of the God. And that has to be exerted to its utmost to realize the divine will which is working through me. So that's the idea which we find wonderful. This is a very subtle discussion, but you will find it's very interesting. That's what Sri Ramakrishna, again we read this passage, that Purushakara is not all. There are so many external factors like good health, holy company, etc., which are not in one's control. So hence, grace is also important. This Purushakara and Kripa should balance, and then only you can realize that God's will. Nangta was a man of great knowledge, yet even he was about to drown himself in the Ganges. He stayed here 11 months. At one time, he suffered from stomach trouble. The excruciating pain made him lose control over himself, and he wanted to drown himself in the river. There was a long shoal of shallow water near the bathing ghat. However far he went into the river, he couldn't find water above his knees. Then he understood everything. He realized that man is not free even to kill himself, that everything depends on the will of the Divine Mother. At one time, I was very ill and was about to cut my throat with a knife. Therefore I say, O Mother, I am the machine and thou art the operator. I am the chariot and thou art the driver. I move as thou movest me. I do as thou makest me do. The devotees sang Kirtan in the Master's room. Dwell, O Lord, O lover of bhakti, in the Vrindavan of my heart, and my devotion unto thee will be thy Radha, dearly loved. My body will be Nanda's home. My tenderness will be Yashoda. My longing for deliverance will be thy gentle gopi maids. Lift the Govardhan of my sin and slay my 6 unyielding passions, fierce as the demons sent by Kamsa. Sweetly play the flute of the grace, charming the milch cow of my mind, abide in the pasture of my soul. So this is how Sri Ramakrishna in the Gospel in some other context says, Leela dhore dhore nitya puchana. That God incarnates. Why he comes down? He comes down so that holding unto his Leela, we can rise up. His avatarana is for our ascendance. His coming down is for our ascendance. So, God's Leela, that's for our contemplation. Not only contemplation, it has to be internalized. As in the Vaishnava Shastras, we have the idea that Krishna's pastime is not a matter of history. There's a concept of this Chinmay Shyama Chinmay Dham. In our, so-called in our mind, in our intellect, the play of the divine which you can contemplate, it's going on eternally. It's always there. So you have to internalize those divine play, and this divine play becomes, in the word, the Ramakrishna's words are wonderful. What's the divine play like? It's like a chain. Suppose you have drowned, you have slipped and you don't know swimming and you have sunk to the bottom of the river, but you're still alive. To save you, someone from the bank throws a chain, an iron chain. And how you save yourselves? Holding onto the rungs of the chain, one by one. You gradually get up. So Ramakrishna, in another context, is saying the divine Leela is just like the rungs of the chain. She has been thrown to you, the one who is immersed in this world of samsara, in this ocean of samsara, holding onto which you can go to that nitya. Leela dhore dhore nitya puchana. So holding onto the Leela, you go to the nitya. When you contemplate on the divine play, internalize it as if it is happening in your life constantly. As Swami Vivekananda used to say, in the present day, it is very much contextual. He used to say that knowledge and learning doesn't mean gathering of information. It is just taking one idea, leaving it, dreaming it, assimilating it. And then he gives a wonderful example. What's the example? That how the pearl is formed. A particular type of mollusk gets irritated by some irritant like sand particle falling on it. It will, along with the irritant, it will dive deep into the river bed or the ocean bed. And it will start salivating over it, over that irritant. And in the course of time, that saliva, that crystallizes, forming the pearl. So he says, take up one idea and leave it, dream it, as if you are salivating over it. Manana, that's the manana. It's not that just gathering of information. In the present day, we know that there is no need for gathering of information. Everything is available just at the click of your mouse, just in the Google Drive. There is no, in the olden days, of course, the man who had a lot of information was considered as learned. But there is now no need. You can get everything at the click. So what's the real transformation, the real education? Just to leave an idea, to transform your life. And to transform it in such a way that your reflexes change. As in Bhagavad Gita they say, that you become like a tortoise. For us, the objects of senses makes our limbs to draw out towards them. I like to grab them. And in Bhagavad Gita, when he's speaking of the Sthita Pragya, what they're saying, his reflexes just changed, has just become opposite. Like a tortoise, just seeing something, some danger, its limbs goes inside the shell. So for a man of realization, the reflexes totally changed. His senses, instead of going out, is as if dragged in whenever there is a chance of encounter with the objects of the senses. He is always drawn within. That as in the Upanishads, they have that idea of parak and pratyak. That God has inflicted our senses in such a way that always it moves outwards. Paranchi khani vyatrinat swayambhu tasmat parak pashyati nantaratman kaschid dhira pratyagatman aikshan avritta chaksu amritatvam icchan. So very few, the fortunate ones, who develop that idea of diving within, not moving out, and that diving within, and as if playing the entire as a devotee, instead of just trying to keep the mind in only one thought. It's very difficult. That's why in Bhagavatam it has been told that Nirvinnanam Jnana Yoga, the one who are extremely renunciate, for them the Jnana Yoga. And those who are extremely attached, for them it is Karma Yoga. But those who are in between, they are the Bhaktas. Neither they are too attached, nor they are extremely renunciate. We will find most of them fit into that gap. For them, to just keep the mind that in I am Brahman is so difficult. So what you do, that instead of allowing the mind to be dissipated in the world, you take the divine Leela, the God's playtime, as your object of meditation, Leela Dhyana. You streamline your mind, thoughts into that. So as it is very difficult to just keep the mind in the idea that I am Brahman. So you have already restricted. It has a particular bandwidth in that Leela. Then gradually you allow your mind to get more and more focused. That's what Leela Dhore Dhore Nitya Java. The more and more. When the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna starts with that idea, in the very first lecture when aim goes, in the first conversation, there we find Sri Ramakrishna is saying a very nice thing. Sandhya merges in Gayatri. Gayatri merges in Omkara. You know, when we chant the Gayatri mantra, any mantra, it starts with Om. Why that Omkara is there with all the mantras? When your mind becomes more and more concentrated, even the mantra becomes a distraction, too long for you. The Gayatri is quite long. And then you feel that that mantra itself is becoming a distraction for you. It is too long for your focused thought to keep it more pointed. And naturally the mantra falls off, holding just to the Om. That's the idea. Sandhya is elaborate rituals, everything, and then you do the Gayatri. When your focus, the focus increases, those all rituals falls off. You just start chanting Gayatri. And then at last you find the Gayatri is also too. It is also something which is creating distraction. It is too long. And now, but your mind needs something to hold on. It then holds on to Om. So that's the idea. Lila dhore dhore nitya. So the devotees who have found that this world is a distraction, but at the same time, he is not yet developed that tremendous dispassion to hold on to that idea that I am that Brahman, that Leela is something very wonderful. That when you internalize, that becomes your Nitya Dhama, Nitya Shyama, Chinmaya Shyam, Chinmaya Dham. Sri Ramakrishna in one place is saying a very interesting thing, that even the sadhus, when they take the resolution of going to the four Dhama, these four places of pilgrimages, which are thought to be very holy, as if you accomplish something in life by going to the four places. They take a resolution to go to these four places, and intentionally they will leave out one. They won't go to the one of the places. First they take a resolution, and one they will leave out. Why? That the thought that I haven't gone there will make him think of that holy place again and again. That's in the scriptures they say, viraha is the highest expression of love, viraha. That when you have that sense that I am missing something, you constantly think of it. Once you get it, it's gone. It loses it gets diffused. So intentionally they will leave out one so that it makes them constantly think of that. And Lila Dhyana is something like that. That you constantly meditating on Krishna's life. You start having that sense of viraha, that separation, that he's not there. And this makes you contemplate on him constantly. Where this idea is being nicely depicted in Ramakrishna's, in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna in some another context. He says very beautifully, Ramakrishna's examples are wonderful. He says, you know what's the significance of Chaitanya Avatara? When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, that the Gaudiya Sampradaya, they believe Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is his Radha and Krishna incarnate together. His external covering is like Radha. Krishna was of dark complexion, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a golden complexion, fair complexion. And that's the complexion of Radha. So externally he's like Radha, even physically in the literal meaning is Radha, but inside it's Krishna. But Sri Ramakrishna is giving a wonderful interpretation. What he's saying, in Radha Krishna's incarnation, one day Radha told Krishna, just was complaining to Krishna, see, the external factors are so challenging for me to be in communion with you always. The society won't allow me. They always censor our communion. But so what I desire to hide you. If people see me in your presence, they all will be censoring us. So what's the way that I can be always in communion with you? Why not you hide within me? Why not you hide in my heart? God is always there to listen to the devotee's prayer. Krishna fulfilled that desire, he's saying. Krishna is fulfilled. How? In the Chaitanya avatar. God is within, but he won't come out. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is constantly crying as if the heart is wrenching because Radha wants Krishna to be out so that they can have communion, but he won't come out. It is Radha only who has prayed for that, and that is the Chaitanya Avatara. So what's the wonderful idea? So this internalization of the divine, his play within you, that's also a way to reach that absolute. And that's the thing which has been indicated in this wonderful song, that dwell, O Lord, O lover of bhakti, in the Vrindavan of my heart, and my devotion unto thee will be thy Radha, dearly loved. My body will be Nanda's home, my tenderness will be Ashoda, my longing for deliverance will be thy gentle gopi maids. Lift the Govardhan of my sin, and slay my 6 unyielding passions, fierce as the demons sent by Kamsa, sweetly play the flute of thy grace, and so on. So it speaks of internalization of the entire divine Leela, as if it is going on ever and ever in your heart. And that's the way of divine contemplation, which can take you to that ultimate spiritual emancipation. So again this sang. So another song is there. So this song also is something which points out to one of the Upanishadic mantras, that the two birds, the example of two birds, that one is the Jivatman, another is the Paramatman. So Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya. It's one of the famous mantras in the Mundaka Upanishad, in the third chapter, in the third part, first chapter of the Mundaka Upanishad. And the song reflects that mantra. So we will take up again the song and what it reflects, what its that real meaning is, what its actual reference is. With that, we will again start our class in the next gospel, in the next class of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars.